Welcome to Motivated to Lead podcast, helping you become a better leader. I'm your host, Mark Klingstein. Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for our podcast this week. My name is Mark Klingstein with SEMA Partners. Each week, we interview leaders and they share lessons learned from their careers. Our goal is to help you become a better leader. This week, we're happy to have with us Christine Yan. Christine is a board member on a number of public boards. She has just a great background, great story of how she rose up through the ranks of Stanley Black and Decker, a $14 billion global company. She held a number of senior positions there as president of several divisions, has worked internationally. She's also a member of the Committee of 200, C200, an invitation-only membership organization of some of the world's most successful women business leaders. Looking forward to today's conversation with Christine. I guess first off, Christine, we talked a couple weeks ago and heard a little bit of your story. And I think you've got a great story to tell as far as of your career. And would you give us just a little bit of an overview of your career story?
Yeah, I grew up in China, and 33 years ago, I came to this country for graduate school with very little money, about $300 in my pocket and two suitcases. And so I went to get a graduate degree in mechanical engineering. And then the very first summer, I got an internship at Black and Decker, their automotive business. And then the next thing you know, I spent nearly 30 years with the same company. Actually, it's now Stanley Black and Decker. I went from an intern to the first female to run a P&L within Black and Decker. I think that was 15 years ago. And during that career time frame, I held 15 different jobs. So just about every 2 years, I got a career move. And then about 3 years ago, I started doing my second career, which is board service. So I left Stanley Black and Decker as a full-time executive, and I started doing board work. I have 4 public company boards now in various industries. And I started taking leadership roles, board leadership roles, and I chair a compensation committee for one board and governance and nominating committee for another board. So the second career goal is to be a corporate governance expert, to do the best I can and in the governance role.
We talked about this as kind of unusual for someone these days to have a career that pretty much spanned a lot of different 15 jobs in one company, and would definitely talk a little bit more about that and just kind of your thoughts. But one of the questions I love to ask almost every guest that we have on is, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give a 22-year-old Christine?
I think the first advice is take risks. Take calculated risks. Don't take blind risks. Take calculated risks and do what you love. Enjoy your job. So love everything you do and, just go for it.
So moving from kind of throughout the organization, and you held some global responsibility as president of several large divisions within Black and Decker over your career. What do you attribute kind of that moving from an intern to a president of division? What were some of the things that you did that you think helped you as far as in your career?
Yeah, I have always had the philosophy is you always go above and beyond, give the best you can and treat the company as your own. So you always work hard and deliver a result and take initiatives. Don't wait for your boss to come and tell you, do this, wait for your email, projects, but take initiatives. Look for opportunities to improve the business beyond your job.
So when you were looking at, you came in from another country and learning our culture and language and all that's involved in that, did you have kind of a plan as far as when you started out as an intern? Did you have aspirations, and was it kind of something that you just did your best work and it kind of happened, or did you kind of think through as far as of what you wanted to accomplish?
Yeah, I always know I want to be successful in life, but I never had the specific goal. So, I want to be at this and this by that
Sure.
age.
Yep.
So I always like work hard at what I do and always exceed expectations. Like when I was first as a design engineer, I mean, I worked with customers, came up with solutions that solved their problems that was patented, and it made a lot of money for the company. And it turned out that I was very good with the interaction with the customers as well, and that's how I got noticed. A year into my job, what you would say fresh off the boat from China, then just taking all kinds of initiatives. Went to customer site to do testing and to prove the design and invention works. And we exceeded the expectations of the first year engineer.
Sure.
And then the company noticed that I was a good engineer and I was good with people, and then they gave me what you did really worked. You listened to the customers' problems. You came up with great solutions that saves money and creates value for the customer. We want to replicate what you do, and we want to give you a department to run. We call it application engineering department. So that you can do that many times over for the company. And that's why 2 years into into working at Black and Decker, at the time, I was running a department of 13 different engineers. And by the way, all of them were way older than me. I was 24 years old, and they were all male. And this was in the greater Detroit area. I think the next youngest one was 35 years old. So that was a good challenge through my way, and I made it work.
Great. We have a lot of people that listen to this podcast that are kind of new leaders, maybe in their first leadership role or maybe their first CEO role within an organization. Any advice you would give? You took over at 24 a team that was people that probably they'd worked a lot longer probably there than you had. But what advice, what do you wish you would have known earlier as far as you started leading people?
Well, I came in and my style was, I know they probably think and they think they deserve the job better than me. So I have to win them over. And the way to win them over is by really respecting them and of what they're capable of, and then supporting them to make their job better. And at the same time, leading them, like show them what else could be possible and potential. How we, in our case, I focused on servicing the customer. How do we, work with the customer as well to create better solutions for our customers so that we can get business. And to do that, I helped them, supported them so that they take care of their customers better, by using technology. For example, at the time, computer-aided design was just starting to take place, and I basically helped the company implement the CAD system, computer-aided design, which greatly increased not only efficiency, but our ability to communicate with our customers and our sister companies and other departments. So we can actually send the CAD data via a modem at the time versus, sending big rolls of blueprint. So, and then people see that when you do a lot of those, innovations, new way of doing things, which makes their job easier, makes them more successful at their jobs, you win people over.
So is there any experience as you look back over your 30 years that you wish you would have had earlier? I know you've had quite a bit of international experience, but anything that you wish you would have focused on earlier in your career?
Well, I would, because of my engineering background, I had a graduate engineering degree, mechanical engineering, by the way. I always thought technical, being an engineer is the best thing, and it's the the hardest thing, and commercial, like salespeople, they're just out talking to customers, and so I did not early on. I did not place enough importance on the importance of commercial, and the business side of it. very soon, luckily, like not too long into my career, I was afforded the opportunity to run sales and marketing. And by the way, I wasn't too keen on taking the job. I said, wow, I'm doing great running engineering R&D. Our patent applications have quadrupled. We're coming out with a lot of new products. I said, why would I want to do sales and marketing? My boss at the time said, if you want to run the business someday, you're going to have to do this, because you have to round off your skills. I said, okay. And I have to say, that job as vice president of sales and marketing for the automotive business, that job turned out to be a lot more challenging than I thought it was. And I learned a lot, and I found that, business is not so simple. As long as you come up with the best design, you win. It's not so, because in Detroit during that time, it was the low pass days, and they were trying, the OEMs are trying to drive everybody into a commodity model. So, basically you can do the design for them, and then they'll send it out for bid to people, to a company with very little overhead, and they use the lowest price. So, having a great commercial strategy, and then create value, having differentiation, value creation is the key to success, but it wasn't the easiest thing to do. So that was really, a big learning point to me. And I would, the advice I'll give to younger people is always go out of your comfort zone and do something that you would normally not think about doing. And learn, as long as it provides the opportunity to learn, grow and learn, push yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, great advice. So think about, and I've talked to a number of leaders, and some say, yeah, I had mentors throughout my career and was purposeful as far as mentors that I was able to glean information and knowledge from. Did you have some mentors that you think were very instrumental as far as in your success?
Yes, I had mentors, but I think what's more important is having sponsors. And I'll share you a story from early life when I was in China as a college student and how I came to the US. So I was, as a college student junior, I was going to a conference, international conference. There, I met a bunch of professors. It's International Conference of Graph Theory, and that's when China was just opening up. So I was able to spend, about a week with this group of professors, and more time with, a couple, and we exchange ideas about, they asked me about China, and I showed them the real China when they were there. This was 1984. So, I asked them about American histories. At the time, I was very interested in westward expansion. And they both saw, a few of them saw the potential in me, just from the interaction. Was this young kid who's very curious intellectually and know more about American westward expansion than we did, because you have to read that. And then one of them sponsored me to come to the US. So very early on, I learned the importance of sponsorship. So I think one thing I have to say with sponsorship is you can't just ask people to sponsor you. You have to show you're worthy of being sponsored. Being that if you have your job, you did a great job exceeding expectations, or it's something else that you have to be worthy of it. Mentorship is always important as well. I've had a few great mentors throughout my career, and they're all outside my company. I actually didn't have a formal mentor within the company. A lot of companies now have mentorship programs. Again, you have to make your mentor know that you're worth them investing the time. You have to use a mentor's time very sparingly. I've mentored people. Sometimes it turns into almost like therapy sessions. They come to you with all the problems. Don't do that because you want to use their time very effectively. to get their views and ideas, not help you solve their problems.
Okay. Well, I think your experience working as a board member, and that would be of interest to those. I get calls probably every week of either CEOs that are early in their career, and they maybe have served on some boards as advisors or observers as far as on a board. But what advice would you give to a new leader? And it's a two-part question. The first part is serving on a board, the importance of that experience. And then the second part is talk a little bit about somebody that maybe has never worked with a board, and some lessons that you've learned.
Yeah. Well, the serving on the board is very different from being an executive. So you go from running the day-to-day to a advisory role, monitoring role, governance role. So the way I look at it is, first, how I do it is first, your experience, your background has to bring value to the board that you're, interested in, and then that way you can contribute to the company. The other way I look at it is also that I have to be able to learn things. I look at the board members, their background and what the company does, the type of industries they're in. Am I going to learn something new, about this company, about the industry? So my journey, I'm on a continuous learning journey. So those are the key criteria when I look at boards. I think for a C-suite executive who is thinking about joining boards, first you need to be prepared. You need to have the skills, experienced people want. The other thing is very important is networking. A lot of the board roles come from people who say, I know, this person, his background or her background, would fit great. That's better than you just going to a headhunter saying, I want to join a board. So the importance of networking is really huge in the board, search journey, I would say.
So I think a lot of times, and we've said this before on the podcast, a lot of times first time CEOs think, I'm the top of the organization. I don't report to anyone, and then they find out that they do have a board that they do have to as far as work with, and that they have responsibility to the shareholders, and make sure that. Talk a little bit about just mistakes you've seen new leaders make, or if you've seen in the boardroom, just some thoughts around that of working with a board and what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right about CEOs. They go from having usually one boss to many different. First, the whole board is their boss, and then you have this different stakeholders. From investors to customers to employees. Very big difference between a C-suite person to a CEO. Boardroom mistakes. I see, people who are not as effective as board members is, the ability to express your disagreements without being disagreeable. I would say that is, there's a word that's, I think, overused, is called collegiality in the boardroom, right? It means, we need to have an environment that people feel free of expressing their different opinions, because end of the day is what you want the boardroom to come. We talk about diversity and inclusion. Now you want different viewpoints, but it's kind of an art to express your different views without alienating other people, without being antagonistic to other people. I think it's critical in getting your voices heard and your advice is heeded. So to me, I think that's a very important trait of a board member, is to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's so important, and I think the experience that you've had in working with so many different industries as well, and those same principles carry through. Doesn't matter on the industry; it's those people skills and ability to communicate well.
And then one more thing I want to mention is, as a newly either retired or executive, right, a new board member, I think the biggest difference is you don't run things anymore. You don't run the day to day. So avoid the trap of, okay, I want to do this. I want to tell them what to do.
Sure.
Making declarative statements, say, here's how you do it. Versus you need to ask very thoughtful questions. Get the management team thinking, and share your experiences, what worked, without telling people what to do, because that's not your role. That's not the board's role, is to tell people what to do. So a good board member always asks very thoughtful questions to get the team thinking, versus telling them what to do.
Yeah, that's definitely advice worth listening to, and definitely following that advice. It's great and I know that will be helpful. What and you mentioned that you continue to learn. It's important for you to continue to grow, and on the boards that you serve, that you're continuing to stretch. But I'm always curious of what people recommend as far as that's had an impact on their lives, as far as books that they've read. Any suggestions that you have for leaders of books they should have on their reading list?
My favorite genre is biography. I read a lot of biographies of people from various different fields, like business leaders, of course, politicians, historical figures. But the latest book I read, biography, is Bob Iger's. I think it's called The Ride of a Lifetime. And it's a great, easy read. A lot of things he went through, he said, really resonate with a lot of executives. So that's the last one I read.
Great. Any quotes that are your favorite quotes?
Favorite quotes. I think it's Mark Twain that said, the surest sign of intelligence is an open mind. And that I try to remind myself of that, throughout my career, be a good listener, keep an open mind, hearing different views. And I try to impart that to my children and my people at work. I think it hasn't failed me so far, to be a good listener and keep an open mind.
Great. So outside of work, what are some of the things that you do to recharge?
Oh, my newest passion is golf. So since I started my second career, I have a little bit more free time than when I was working full time as an executive. So I really love the game of golf. Where you spend really good time in the outdoors, in beautiful environment, having good time with friends, at the same time competing with yourself, like to be a better player, learn from, every hole, what you did right and what you could improve on. So I just love the game.
What parting advice would you give to a new or up and coming leader?
I think the thing is, you take risks. Okay, take calculated risk. Always treat the company, wherever you work for, as your own, and go above and beyond. Always, try to exceed expectations. Don't just do your job. Come in and do a better job than you could ever do. And push yourself out of your comfort zone. Growth and comfort, they do not go together. So every time you feel comfortable, push yourself to do something different. Even sometimes it means a lateral move. You take a lateral move in order to learn new things to get you to the next upward move.
Thank you for listening to the Motivated to Lead podcast. Please subscribe on iTunes. You can also see a video version of this interview at motivatedtolead.com. This podcast is brought to you by SEMA Partners, helping you find your next great leader.